Now I wonder if rereads count. I'm rereading this, and I read Liberty and Tyranny, and this is kind of a continuation of Liberty and Tyranny, and those of you who are freedom-minded and believe in Constitution and where we should go back to in our country, this is the man you should definitely read. This is a must-read, actually. Anybody who's subbed to me, I'm telling you, you must read. And I would love to hear your comments after you read it. You can attach it to this video so other people can also see what you think as well. This is Meritopia, the Unmaking of America. And, wow. If there's anybody I've ever read that has his finger on the pulse of everything that's going on and unashamedly exposes it, it's this man. And he's the only guy that I know, as soon as Obamacare went through, he and a group of his lawyer friends sued the government. Very first ones to sue. So I kind of have a little extra respect for that, you know, because a lot of these talk show hosts, I mean, how much activism are they involved in? I mean, what do they go speak places, and are they, when they go speak, are they getting paid a lot of money? You know, a lot of, like, I'm not a big fan of Bill O'Reilly, and he's a good example of that, where he's just keeps pumping out books and just, I don't know, like, really, this guy, you know, puts whatever he says into action through works, and that's, you know, writing a book doesn't really cut it as far as I'm concerned, because you're benefiting. But this guy does more than just write books, and I believe that he writes the books to really try to wake the general populace up. So let's, I mean, like I said, it's a must read, so I'm just going to get into, there's so much in here that's amazing, so I'm just going to read an excerpt now. Maybe I'll read two excerpts, because this is that good. The debates between the Federalists and the anti-Federalist camps did not involve fundamental disagreements about the nature of man and inalienable rights, about which there was near universal consent and for which a revolution had been fought and won, but how best to arrange a government after the revolution to ensure the perpetuation of American society. The delegates at constitutional and state conventions feared above all else the concentration of too much power in the new federal government. In fact, at the Constitutional Convention, the delegates specifically considered and rejected a proposal by Delaware's Gunning Bedford for a broad grant of power to Congress to pass laws of general interest, or where states might be said to be incompetent, or where state action might be said to disrupt the harmony of the nation. Although the delegates sought to establish a federal government that would overcome the deficiencies of the Articles of Confederation, Bedford went much too far. Virginia's Edmund Randolph objected that under Bedford's scheme, state constitutions and laws would be no consequence, and the Congress could intervene at will in state affairs. Bedford's proposal went nowhere. Not only was there no support for an all-powerful central government, but the delegates at the Constitutional Convention spent most of the summer trying to figure out how to ensue that no office or office holder in the new federal government would become too powerful. As is well known, they separated powers between and among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches and enumerated the powers within each branch in considerable detail. The delegates also opposed majoritarianism in its purest forms, for it encouraged factionalism and threatened individual sovereignty should a group of majority succeed in controlling the government and imposing their will on society. Consequently, the only direct elections would occur in selecting members of the House of Representatives. Senators would be chosen by the states through the people, would vote for president. The president would ultimately be elected by members of an electoral college, and judicial candidates would be nominated by the presidential or by the president for confirmation or rejection by the Senate. The framers believed they had done what they could through the Constitution to fend off tyranny by the few and the many. Still, the Anti-Federalists were not convinced, and ratification of the Constitution in several states was in jeopardy. Madison and others tried to alleviate the objections in Federalist 39. Madison argued that the federal government had only certain enumerated powers, and the states retained residuary and inviolable sovereignty over all else. In Federalist 45, he asserted that the proposed federal powers were few and limited, and the power in the states remained numerous and indefinite. Nonetheless, Virginia's George Mason, among many others, insisted that more was needed to contain federal authority and safeguard the states' plenary power. In order to secure the Constitution's ratification, the Federalists eventually agreed to introduce a set of amendments in the First Congress, which had been widely accepted in advance, further delineating and underscoring the limits of the federal government, respecting its potential abuse against the individual and usurpation sorry guys, of the states. They become known as the Bill of Rights. Where utopianism is advanced through gradualism rather than revolution, albeit steady and persistent in democratic societies, it can deceive and disarm an unsuspecting population, which is largely content and passive. It is sold as reforming and improving the existing society's imperfections and weaknesses without imperiling its basic nature. Under these conditions, it is mostly ignored, dismissed, or tolerated by much of the citizenry and celebrated by some. Transformation is deemed innocuous, well-intentioned, and perhaps constructive, but not a dangerous trespass on fundamental liberties. Utopianism also finds a receptive audience among the society's disenchanted, disaffected, dissatisfied, and maladjusted, who are unwilling to unable to assume responsibility for their own real or perceived conditions, but instead blame their surroundings, the system, and others. They are lured by the false hopes and promises of utopian transformation and the criticisms of the existing society to which their connection is tentative or non-existent. Improving the malcontent's lot becomes linked to the utopian cause. Moreover, disparaging and diminishing the successful and accomplished becomes an essential tactic. No one would be better than anyone else, regardless of merits or values of his contributions. By exploiting human frailties, frustrations, jealousies, and inequities, a sense of meaning and self-worth is created in the malcontent's otherwise unhappy and directionless life. Simply put, equality in misery, that is. Equality of result or conformity is advanced as a just, fair, and virtuous undertaking. Liberty, therefore, is inherently immoral, except where it avails equality.